It's interesting to know how these symbols came up with. We use them as a way to communicate our ideas, so we can't live without them. They are all around us, and sometimes it can get confusing, but in the end order really does make sense. So, here are 10 more symbols you probably didn't know the meaning of. Number 10. Crowns. It's a symbol of power, dominion, and just generally being the top guy within a group. So why did we exactly associate this piece of headwear with those qualities? Well, the thing is, crowns were actually first used in the ancient Roman Empire, particularly by Constantine I, as an evolution of what the old Persian kings wore, the diadem, which was a circular headband. However, this still doesn't answer our question. Why headgear? Well, it's quite hard to pinpoint a singular explanation for it, given the multitude of civilizations that have used headdress for this purpose. However, the closest answer we could find, though, is that in the olden days before social and political systems we know today were established, rule and leadership were based on theocracy. The belief that one's ruler is the one chosen by gods, as such crowns are a sort of symbolism derived from halos, which were used to symbolize the status of being anointed by deities themselves, which became more and more apparent when Christian iconography became prominent with crowns resembling halos. If you want to go even further back, you can even see that halo themselves originated from the spots of light you usually see by the head of Christian figures, such as Jesus in old paintings. So basically, the crown has a symbol as an evolution of this idea through the centuries. Number 9. The witch's broom. Whenever you think of witches, it's more likely you're imagining some green woman with a pointy hat who rides through the night on a flying broom. So the question is, how exactly did this broom riding trend start? And there is one answer to that. Sweet drugs. You see, witches in the historical sense aren't really the gangrene-infested old crones that many a Halloween decoration portrays them to be. Instead, they claim to be more akin to medicine, women or druids as such. They made heavy use of herbal remedies often. One of their medicines is said to be an ointment that is made from black henbane, also known as nightshade, which contains a lot of psychoactive properties. They call this particular ointment the flying potion, due to the lightness of feeling you get when you rub it on your body. In other words, you get high when you use the ointment. Now, it is purported that witches, being the randy minks as they are sometimes, used to apply the ointment on their private parts, and to do this, they needed something cylindrical to insert in their womanhood. You know, like a broomstick. Hence, flying brooms became associated with witches because somewhere along the way, historians got lost in translation and took it literally. Number 8. Thumbs up and thumbs down symbols. Having your thumbs up or down is the universal symbol for something that is good or bad, respectively. Now, as with the use of how crowns can be traced back to ancient Romans, so too can this gesture. The act of using a thumbs up or thumbs down started back when the Colosseum was active and the Holy Roman Empire was honking for some bloody murderous fun. As opposed to what the movies tell us where the thumbs up signal means the losing gladiator gets to be spared. It's actually the opposite of that. Back then, having your thumbs up being the symbol for a gladiatorial sword means keep that sword out and kill that fool. The opposite symbol for it, though, wasn't a thumbs down during those days. Instead, people preferred hiding their thumbs within the palm of their hands, which means sheath your sword. As for how we came up with the thumbs down, scholars theorized that it's because we generally associate directions geared downwards with negative qualities like failure, as opposed to directions above us, which signify elevation and other positive traits. Number 7. The traditional ninja costume. Whenever you make a list of the coolest warriors in the history of mankind, it's hard to think of not containing the Japanese ninja. Furthermore, it's highly likely that images of some guy or girl in black overalls with their faces covered quietly running on rooftops while they throw shuriken comes to mind when you think of ninja. But the thing is, they looked far from how comics, movies, and the TV portray them. You see, ninjas were originally an order of covered assassins that came from old Japan's peasant class as such. The whole point of their existence is to be as hidden from the eyes of the public as possible, which they did by surprisingly not dressing up in anything at all. As in, they weren't naked, they just wore normal clothes. After all, it's the perfect camouflage. The stereotypical mask assassin that we think of actually just comes from artistic interpretations that portray ninjas as wearing all black garments to mask and convey a sense of mystery and covertness, given that they're silent assassins. Number 6. The Griffin Symbol. I'm going to assume you know what a griffin is, but in case you don't know, it's a creature with a lion's body and an evil's head that's been around for thousands of years. European kings have used it on their crests and banners. The ancients used it as a piece of religious iconography, and Harry Potter fans hate it when you confuse it with the hippogriff. See, the use of the Griffin symbol is very interesting, considering that ancient cultures that were hundreds, if not thousands of miles apart more or less, had a concept of it. One such example is 5th century BC India and Crete. Back then, they used the griffin as a symbol of the power coming from the gods that grant protection. If we were to refer to European cultures, however, they thought that the lion's body and the griffin's head represented strength and intelligence, respectively. The question is, how did the ancients come up with this idea? Well, there's no exact conclusive theory for it, but some historians believe that people of the time mistook the bones of a protoceratops, a small dinosaur, for a lion-eagle creature. Number 5. The Joker cards. In most games involving playing cards, the case is either the Joker card is not used at all, or it's used as a sort of wild card, meaning it can take any number or suit. Regardless of what game you're playing, it's rather interesting to find out how the Joker card came into existence in the first place. You see, the Joker card was first used in a game called euchre, where it's the highest card you can draw. However, it's much older than that. The reason the Joker was envisioned primarily as a wild card is mainly because of the influence of tarot cards in cartomancy, the cold practice of card reading. There exists a card called the Fool, which is usually depicted as a minstrel. Now, this card signifies the beginning of life's journey, and as such it also means that the Fool could go anywhere during its travels. In turn, playing card makers adopted the Fool in the form of the Joker card to resemble something that can take any number or suit, not unlike the way the Fool can choose its own path. Number 4. The period. Dots at the end of sentences mean one thing, the end, so much so that sometimes we even loudly state the word period itself to mean when we're done talking about something. However, we have to ask, when exactly did the tradition of dotting our sentences to mark that we're finished saying something come from? It's actually one of the oldest grammatical symbols around, being that it was used ever since the 3rd century BC by Greek scholar Aristos of Byzantium. Back then, he introduced a system where the height of a dot relative to the size of the letters placed at the end of a sentence determines its purpose. High dots denote to full stops, similar to our modern dots or periods. Middle dots are more like semicolon, which indicate a break equivalent to one long breath before continuing a thought or statement. Then there are low dots, which are like commas. They indicate a short break before going on with what you're saying. Finally, it was only until the 2nd century AD that the use of the dots or full stop, as we know it today, was established by writer Ælfric of Eynsham. Number 3. The communist red star. Like the communist hammer and sickle we talked about in the previous video we made, another equally iconic communist symbol is the red star, created during the Russian Civil War sometime between 1917 and 1922. The red star originally represented two things. First, its 5 points resembled the fingers of every worker, the backbone of communism. Second, each point of the star stands for the 5 continents under a communist or socialist rule at the time. After the revolution, though, the red star was adapted by the Soviet Army, also known as the Red Army. Now, no one knows exactly when the red star was first used, but some historians believe that it's all started during World War I. When retreating Russian soldiers were ordered to wear a tin star on their hats to distinguish themselves from the enemy, so they won't get shot. No one likes getting shot. Number 2. The Nazzzi Salute. You've probably seen this somewhere, given that the Nazis are the go-to bad guys in popular media. Some brainwashed douchebag extends his arms stiff as an anti-Semitic twig, then shouts, "Heil Hitler!" If you see this today, know that it's enough of a reason for you to sock that right in the face, and for good reason. It's the symbol used by Hitler's Nazi hate machine back when they were Nazi their way all over the world. So how did these hateful sacks of sauerkraut come up with it? Historians believe they adapted it from the ancient Romans. However, there really is no evidence that they had this salute. The earliest known proof of its existence is found on a painting by neoclassical artist Jacques-Louis Daniel entitled Oath of the Horatii, which you painted in 1784. Come to think of it, it's no surprise that the Nazis confused real ancient Roman history with David's fictional account as they do with, everything else. Number 1. The symbols on the PlayStation control. Cross, circle, triangle, square. These 4 shapes have become synonymous with gaming, particularly Sony's PlayStation console line, and it's no wonder these symbols have become so well known. The PlayStation, after all, is one of the best-selling console lines of all time. So how exactly did Sony come up with their trademark controller marks? Well, it can be traced back to Yu Goto, who was the chief designer of the revolutionary PS controller. For one, Sony sought out to set itself apart from other companies, like Nintendo, which mainly used letters to mark their controllers. However, according to him, the shapes themselves carry a meaning of their own. When it came to assigning the O and X buttons of the PS controller, Mr. Goto went to the traditional Japanese symbols for yes and no, respectively. The square, on the other hand, represents a piece of paper that contains information, which in turn is usually the button for menu access. Finally, there's the triangle, which according to the designer stands for a point of view, like an arrow of some sort that could lead users to certain features. So those are 10 more symbols you probably didn't know the meaning of. Got any interesting symbols you want explaining on your mind? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it and subscribe clicking on that bell icon to never miss a new video. Thanks for watching.